Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Kris Hocum.
Hi, Matt.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Happy to have you here.
Excited for it.
Our stories crossed paths in 2008.
Yep.
We were just talking about that. We've known each other 15 years, and you were working at Chase Bank.
Correct.
And tell us that story. You came into our painting office, right? North Loveland.
Yep. I had been working at the Chase in Loveland and had to go up to your office that was there behind the Walmart years ago and get you to sign something. I don't remember what, but
it was something.
But I remember coming up to your office, and that's when we officially met.
It was.
Yeah.
And we've got to get this out of the way because it's what everybody thinks about you, says about you, whether you know it or not. I looked at your ears, and you've got to pull this side off. I said, what is going on with these ears right here? See if the camera might be able to zoom in on it. So there's a story. There's a story behind those ears.
Yep, and both of them are this exact same way, but they're cauliflower ear from right one. I always tell people is from wrestling in high school.
Yes.
Left one developed from when I was fighting professionally.
Okay.
Showed me that I was only taking shots wrestling one way since I only had one bad ear in high school.
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And comparatively, I just have enough, so people leave me alone.
Yeah. This one starts conversations everywhere.
Yes, I love it. Well, man, let's start conversations. We're just gonna hang and share stories. We're sitting here, 15 years later?
15.
We are now working together in real estate.
Yep.
You're my neighbor. Our wives are probably hanging out right now.
Most likely.
Your kids just randomly show up at our house.
Yes.
They're just randomly in our pool one day. Right?
I told you that was part of the deal when we moved next to you.
How did we get here? So as we talk about how we got here and really like why the stories are important for people listening, we gotta toast the Spanish coffee.
Mm-hmm. Love
Let's
it.
see. How is it?
It was great.
I made this one. Francis made that one, but they're both great.
Well, Francis did very good. It's delicious.
So I brought for you some shots to take
Okay.
today. Now, not going to do you like that because you used to put different things in these shot glasses.
Cookies.
But now you've replaced what used to go in the shot glasses with your new vice, your new love.
Love it. Food.
So we've got Spanish coffee, Spanish cookies. So you go get a hot chocolate in Spain, you get a little cracker, little cookie. These are just my favorite. I mean, who can't eat peanut M&Ms?
Right.
And then we have these orange marshmallows from Sevilla.
Those look
I told you this story about the orange store and everything. So we'll just jam on those as we're working through our stories. Or you want to try them now? Which one do you want to try?
I want to try the orange
Let's
marshmallow.
do it. Let's do it right now. So Seville's known for their oranges. They have these amazing oranges all over the city. You can just grab one off a tree, eat it right off the tree. And this store literally has everything that you could ever imagine eating or drinking, spreading on top, everything, jelly, olive oil, salt, orange flavor.
It's delicious.
What do you think?
It's great.
Yeah? You're going to eat both?
Well, if you're not going to eat it, don't twist my arm.
Man, so where do we start? How did we get here? How did you get to where you are now? Because you're a successful business guy, ex-professional MMA fighter. You have an amazing, beautiful family. You're a Jesus follower. You've got all kinds of stuff that I'm sure a lot of people look up to and admire and would love to know how you got from where you were, because I know where you were back in the day, and I'll let you share. But how did you get from where you were to where you are? And let's just bounce around and talk about it, see where it goes.
Man, it's like, where do you start? It's, just the journey. Because it feels like a lot of it was just, things just happened. I in high school, I wrestled and played lacrosse. Those were my two big sports. And I was a state champ in high school wrestling. And even then it was like, well, where am I going to go to college? And somebody was like, I bet you could get into the Air Force Academy and then college is paid for and it's free and you actually get paid. And I was like, cool, that sounds like a great idea. And at that time I wanted to be a doctor and went to the Air Force Academy and realized quickly that, well, if you go through medical school through the academy, you're going to be in the Air Force for a while, and especially if with an orthopedic specialty, I would have been 45 to 48 before getting out of the Air Force.
Yeah.
And so came back and just started working and didn't know what to do. And my dad had been a loan officer my whole life. And so I was like, all right, I know finance. So got a job at Chase as a teller at 19. And during, there was a lot of life kind of going on during that time. But that's when I met my wife, Jessica.
18.
I was 18. Yeah.
How'd you meet her?
19.
Tell us your love story. So she walk into the bank, do a deposit. Like, I love this girl. How did that happen? Because I don't think you've ever shared that. I don't think I know your guys' story.
Okay. Well, there's 2 times we met. One, we didn't know we met the first time until afterwards. So I was working back because I still thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I started working for an orthopedic surgeon, and I was basically a medical assistant for him. And I remember I checked in this mom and her daughter, and I was helping her mom. Her mom was there to see the doctor, and at the end I was like, that girl's kind of cute. I liked her, but I'm working, so I can't really do anything.
Keep it professional.
Keeping it professional. But at that time we were going to Sundance every Sunday because it was family night. So family night. But it basically the 16 to 21-year-olds came to Sundance to dance on Sunday night.
Just dance, no drinking, just dancing.
No drinking at Sundance.
Okay.
I was drinking before I got there, but
Before Sundance.
Before Sundance, but I saw her dance by with some of her friends, and my roommate Jesse was there, and I was like, I'd love to date a girl like that. And he's like, I know her. I can introduce you. And a couple weeks passed. He had introduced, and I didn't have the courage to ask her to dance. So she asked me to dance.
She asked you. Mm-hmm. She went first.
She did.
Okay.
She did.
And here we are.
Here we are. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, we started dating. 9 months later, proposed to her. A year later, got married, and that was 2006. So August will be, going to do some math, but 17 years.
The loan officer is doing the good math. Make sure your loan officer knows math.
Or has a good calculator.
Yes.
You don't have to, some of that math, I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to use my calculator.
That's just how did you know? So 9 months. Emily and I share a similar story. I met her in the basement of a bar on salsa night, and she said, "Hey, can you be my fake boyfriend tonight so these guys will leave me alone?" And I said, "I'll be your real boyfriend forever." I fell in love right away. I knew right away. How did you know? When did you know that she was the one?
Pretty quick. I actually had, before that, I had a friend that told me, she told me, write a list of everything you want in a spouse. Be as specific as you want. And her story, she had like over 100 things on her list when she met her husband, Ryan. And she's like, but put what you want on there, what they look like, what, do they love Jesus? Like all of those things. And so I had written a list, and before meeting Jessica, I had dated a couple girls that met most of the list, but there was a couple things on there that they didn't meet. And the flesh, wants to compromise and go, we'll be all right. We don't see eye to eye here, or that's a big deal, but it but it was.
Was it the Jesus box that they didn't check that, or was it other boxes?
Other boxes. Okay. It was Jesus box. It was in some others. It was more mentality, political thought process, those type of things. But Jessica met every one of those items on the list, and so it was like, I want to marry this girl.
There we are.
And she tried. She tried to, she played hard to get, but
Emily did too. Yeah. How did you break through that?
Persistence.
Okay.
I don't know. No special there, but just persistence. And then I took her to Jamaica to propose to her, and I always kidded with her. I was like, if you said no, I was just going to leave you there.
You can't say no to that. You get a one-way ticket or a round trip, depending on your answer.
I'm holding the ticket. It was before you had the cell phone tickets.
I think this is a good time because you made a really great point, and we'll get into next part of this. But let's try the cookies. You can dip it in the coffee. You can just eat it.
Okay.
Just eat it straight. ASMR.
Don't want to eat into the mic. That's good. Really good. Mm-hmm.
I was on a podcast with Daniel James, if you know Daniel James, and he's from South Africa, and part of his podcast is actually on the podcast. He's just hitting you with all kinds of South African food and drinks and beverages. So I thought we'd add a little today.
I love it.
You mentioned persistence, and we're in, you and I mean, we find ourselves every day in different capacities of our life in the real estate world. We've worked some private security, we're fighting, we're in self-defense, we're raising families. Like there's a lot on the line. There's a lot of high stakes that we're in. And you're from a background where, you talk about this persistence, right? With wrestling, with MMA, pursuing Jessica. Talk a little bit more about that. What would you share with listeners that are somewhere along their journey and they're getting stuck and they're having issues? Like, how is persistence? That's such a big part of your story, just that I know because I know you. But what would you share about that with people?
I think a lot of it is like I think it all goes back to like what I learned wrestling and why I love wrestling so much as a sport, because you have to go through the day in, day out of practice, the diet, the nutrition, the recovery. When it's competition time, you're on stage, on the mat, where it is a team sport, but it's an individual sport. And watching, especially in high school wrestling, I watched kids quit. You could see them quit in the middle of a match. Like they didn't like walk off the mat and quit, but they quit on themselves. And a lot of times I think like in life, like nothing is supposed to come easy. And if you know what you want and you know that the end goal is good and you know what you're supposed to do, you just have to keep doing the activities to persevere, and I think a lot of people, like I watch kids quit on that wrestling mat, they're quitting on their lives and goals and dreams and settling. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is if it's not easy, give up.
And you have kids, I have kids, and wrestling transitioned to jiu-jitsu, and we have that relationship.
Yep.
You're a forever 4-stripe rolled together into 1-stripe purple belt.
Forever, #forever purple. Don't promote me. Steve, don't promote me.
Don't promote me. Don't do it if you're listening, Steve, and watching. So do you see that as, do you think that's a parental thing? Do you think that's how culture's shifted? Because I see that on the mats. It's hard. And I have parents consistently, they call up, been doing jiu-jitsu. They've signed their kids up for jiu-jitsu. Oh, we want to toughen up Johnny and this, and he's got bully issues and work on self-confidence. He has a little bit of adversity for 3 minutes on the mat. He lost interest. And the parents just tell them it's okay to quit.
I think it's a culture issue. Like, I think it's just, everything, our culture is progressing to where everything is trying to make your life easier and simpler. And we have information at the touch of our fingers, but it's not anymore. Like, we're busier than we've ever been. And life is harder than it's ever been. But the message is comfort and ease, and don't upset the apple cart. And and if it's not right, quit and go do something else. And I think it's a culture issue.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I love youth sports so much, because we're trying to get that winning and losing is okay and it's normal. You got to try hard. If you lose, it's fine, but don't not put in the effort.
You can say losing. I thought you weren't
losing.
supposed to say that. I thought it was they get the smaller medal.
Yeah, no, losing's good.
Yeah.
Losing's good because it builds your character.
We grew up in the 80s and 90s. There was a pecking order. Right? 'Cause I got bullied. So I knew where I stood in that pecking order. And I played baseball, and you won or you lost.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Landon's playing competitive baseball now, my 10-year-old. And it's fun. Like, it's fun watching because they move up and down the lineup, how well they're doing and playing time. And you have to perform and you have to be coachable and he's on such a great team, but it's fun watching the whole team mesh and grow and compete.
And one of my memories we'll share of Landon is we were over at your house for dinner, right? You just moved into the house and you guys cooked an awesome dinner. And I always rile your kids up, right? I walk into whatever environment, whether it's church or your house, and I was in the middle of your living room and I squared up on him. And he goes, "Oh, I was just doing kickboxing." I said, "Show me a leg kick." And he wound up, was he 6, 7? And he wound up, hit me with a leg kick. Still feel that.
He's got some power.
You hear the thud?
He's a tank, and that's where he's got the nickname Lando the Tank.
He has a hashtag on Instagram.
He has a hashtag.
It's Lando the Tank.
Hashtag Lando the Tank.
That's awesome. He's got more following than us. We got to figure something out here.
He's got it,
So this whole podcast, right, is about us sharing stories. Like how do our stories connect? How do we connect and meet with other people's stories on the jiu-jitsu mats, the wrestling mats, the business world, the faith space? And then how do we make people's lives better? Right. And the Gentle Art of Leadership program, that's literally the analogy of that life and business and leadership. It's all the same thing. It's this journey, and we're never there. We're always improving. And these lessons that you've learned on wrestling and jiu-jitsu mats that I've learned on the jiu-jitsu mats and us both in the business space, what were some of those key takeaways? So when we talk about perseverance and grit and not giving up and this idea of this soft culture where it's just okay to stop and quit and you should still be rewarded with something that we worked hard for. Mm-hmm. You wrecked your ears, your body, right? Like I've got blown out back, knees, shoulders, everything, right? You got a split lip right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was helping the guys training at the gym this morning, and
you sure helped them.
Got punched in the face, and I was like, I'm bleeding. But
every time we've had a high stakes, so we're literally here on a podcast.
Yeah, that's
real
true.
estate closing. You came into my first real estate closing.
Your
you showed
first
up with
real estate closing.
47 stitches in your face.
Well, that morning we took them out. So yeah, the doctor I had fought the week before, and I didn't have the best performance because I had gotten sick and mismanaged a weight cut and got my face just picked apart. And it's bad after the fight when the doctor comes in and goes, "You're first," because that means you're going to take the most time.
Line them up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But after he switched from the first pack of stitches, he lost count. So it was a lot.
So I squirreled a little bit into that as I started to ask you about what's been the biggest lesson on the mats, whether wrestling or jiu-jitsu, that you take away, apart from grit, perseverance, what we've already talked about, that you would share with a business owner, a man just that's struggling, that's trying to get by, wants to get by, but they're not there yet. Maybe they hold other people or us or whoever on this pedestal, and they're just, how did you do it? What do I do? I'm stuck. What do you tell them? What's the biggest lesson that you step off those mats with?
I mean, I really look at like my fighting career, and there was nothing like I'm not a special athlete. Like I really feel like what made me good as a fighter was just doing the day in, day out things that I knew or my coaches told me that I needed to do to get to that level. And I am very much a task process oriented person. And, but it's a like, okay, these are the steps you need to take, and all you need to focus on is what actions are you taking that day, and what's going on in your brain, and sometimes you gotta check those negative thoughts. I always visualization. Harry Potter. Have you watched the Harry Potter movies?
No, I'm not a Harry Potter guy,
All
but
right.
but do share, because I'm sure a lot of people are.
I'm a little bit of a Harry Potter and Star Wars nerd that way. So there's a movie where they can pull out a thought, and it's like a visual thought, and I use that as, all right, I'm having a bad thought. I'm having a negative thought of some kind that I know is not helpful with what I need to do today. And visually, mentally pull that out and flick it away.
Okay.
And it helps reset to go, all right, that's not a good thought. That's not helpful. That's not moving me towards keeping what I need to do that day. So I think it really is those two things. Like, you control your attitude and you control your actions. And that's in a daily basis. And you just keep making those steps every day. And it helps just progress towards that end goal.
So I heard you say a few important things. So in your training days, you go, hey, like, I know you're a process guy, right?
Yep.
We were here at Couples Night comparing our leadership language styles.
My
and
disc is
I'm
all
I'm
SC.
an emotional lightning bolt, and you're like, wow, Matt's getting excited about something, and you're calculating the ROI on it, which is great. So you followed, you listen to your coaches.
Yep.
They've made people successful. They've trained other successful people. You've followed those successful people. There was a plan, there was an action plan, and you did the work.
Yep.
Seems simple.
Yep.
And then another thing that you said so eloquently, like, it seems really simple. Hey, capture the thought, grab it, flick it away.
Flick it away.
I feel like just being devil's advocate, but more so to help listeners, people viewing this, is great. Like, sounds easy, but how do you do that? How do you grab that thought? Because I understand what you're saying. They understand what you're saying. Feels to me like easier said than done.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to be watching the same. Well, that's great, Kris. How do you do that? Give an example of just the last time you had a thought, what that thought was, how you grabbed that, how you flicked that away.
Especially like, real estate mortgages had a wild roller coaster ride over the last couple years, where 2020, 2021, everything's great. 22, interest rates changed, and the mortgage world, real estate world changed, and it's really easy when business isn't at the same level as it was, or you're having harder clients, or harder processes, or just situations to deal with, to get into this. Whoa, what am I doing wrong? Like, what is this me? Is this is it the industry? Do I need to go, move to the beach and open up a taco truck and start over?
We were sitting, I remember because we just, like, you literally moved into your dream house that was already built. You're a stone's throw away. I can see you.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You might be able to see into our living room. It's kind of weird.
There's a tree that
Hopefully
blocks it.
Stop. Don't do that.
I need binoculars or a drone.
Yeah, but quick, right? And we bought our lot. We built our dream house. And I remember we're both sitting at each other's houses, even right before you're about to buy that, going, ooh, and you're under contract. And I'm already in it about a year. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting here going, okay, we were rock stars when things were easier.
Easy.
The proof, the record sales, the revenue on paper feel great. But then you see the conditions change, the environment change, and we see what's shifting in the market, and then that goes right to here.
Right to there.
Yeah, so we don't have the record sales, and we forget that we're rock stars. So is that an internal voice for you? Because for me, all day, I'm harder on myself than anybody else.
Totally.
Are you the same way?
Yeah, I mean, like, if I don't stop the thought and think of, and I'll kind of come back to, like, how I do that for me. But if I don't stop the thought, I'll get to where I am not useful to anything, and I might as well sit down in my chair and watch YouTube, you know,
eat some M&Ms.
eat some candy.
I know you want some of those.
Candy is my, my stress, I stress eat,
You eat a bag of those? I can eat a 2-pound bag after dinner before bed when I'm stressed.
I ate the 4-pound jug of Jelly Bellies from Costco in a week. It was
Beautiful.
Nobody else in the household got them. It was awesome.
Hey, just want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. If you're a small business owner, one of the things that you need to navigate to be successful is all things online and digital in terms of marketing and your messaging. Imprint Digital, they're the real deal. They are the professionals and they know this world inside and out. Make sure to visit their website at imprint-digital.com. Hey, if you're a business owner and you need to do some renovation in your space or possibly build a building from the ground up, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Mendel Construction. Mendel Construction is a commercial construction company that's been around since 1997, serving all of Colorado. They can do a small tenant finish all the way up to ground up construction of a new building for your business. Check them out at mendelandcompany.com. That's MENDEL and company.com. If you're a Christian small business owner and you live in Northern Colorado, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian executive peer advising group that connects other business owners in the community to help you focus on your faith, your life, your leadership, and your business. Make sure to check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. A big shout out and thank you to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D was actually founded by my wife Emily and I back in 2005. And for the last 2 decades, we've been here in Northern Colorado of one of the leaders in residential and commercial repainting, as well as most recently installing residential roofs. So if you need to paint, re-roof, you got hit by a hailstorm, we can take care of whatever your home needs from top to bottom. You can find us on the web at mandepainting.com. So with that voice, how do you hear it coming? Is it, or does it just show up? And then what do you ask yourself? What do you do?
For me, I do go back to, okay, is these thoughts going to change anything for right now? Are there certain things that I need to think about with these of things I need to change to make myself better, make our processes better, make me a better, especially when we're thinking the mortgage side, a better loan officer. And we've been working on some of those and stretching and growing. And now that it's tough to work through those, but I think, I always tell myself is that thought going to change anything right now? And what, if I don't do what I know I need to do, I'm going to be in a worse spot by the end of the day. And as a process person, when I have those thoughts, I capture it. I think about, I do I need to revisit this? But then I go, what do I need to do right now? Yeah. What next step forward do I need to take? Kind of like when you're out hiking, if you're going to go on a 10-mile hike, you can't think of that 10 miles from now. You got to think of the next step. Or when I'm running, because I hate running. Yeah, running's a punishment. Sorry for you runners, but it's a punishment.
It's brutal.
It's brutal.
We're not going to go running in the morning.
No.
You're not running over to my house to pick me up to go running.
I'm going to ride my scooter. Yeah. But it's like, hey, I'm going to run to that tree. I can run to that tree because that I know I can do. And then you get to the tree, I'm going to run to that light post. And you make those smaller goals to keep you moving. And the harder the day is, the harder the thoughts are, you need to have those shorter destinations to keep you moving in that long-term direction.
I love it. So you're specifically asking yourself a yes or no question. Is this thought, does this matter right now? Right. Does this drive me forward? And if not, park it. And then you say, do I need to come back to this? That's step 2. Mm-hmm. Do I need to come back to this? And if so, we'll revisit it, maybe in a time where there's less emotion or less chaos surrounding it. Exactly. And then you're eating that elephant like one bite, or that bag of peanut M&Ms one one at a time,
one at a time.
right?
Yep.
Just step by step and get to the next step.
Just keep moving forward. Just put that one foot in front of the other, and then do take that reflection time later. When you're in a non-chaotic time frame or better mental space, and now analyze it and go, what changes do I need to make? What what was real here, and what was just fear.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
And then you go back. How do you go back? 'Cause I have a hard time going back. I accomplished something, and you know this. We talk about this,
Right.
and then it's what's the next thing?
Yep.
Right. What's the next step? What's the next goal? What's the next business? I have a hard time looking back to go, whoa, I was broke, fired, like everything on the line 20 years ago. Right. We met 15 years ago. Here we are. And I think you were pretty much in that same position, right?
Yeah.
And you're sitting here. You're a successful millionaire business guy. Have you looked back on that and said,
wild.
not like we are, right? Have you looked back on that and seen how far you've come? Do you do that on a regular basis?
I every once in a while, like especially like moving into the new house, it's always like, whoa. And just had a birthday recently, and I'm like, holy cow, we were like, when Jess and I got married, we were 21 and 19. What has happened? Like, look at, and when we got married, when I was working at the bank and pursuing my fighting dreams, she was working 2 jobs, so we could pay bills.
Yeah.
And she was working at one point 7 days a week.
And prepping your meals, I remember too. Wasn't she doing your meal prep and helping with that?
I wasn't allowed to help cook because
you can't cook.
I got better at it, but it was so bad that even like before I was eating healthy, I remember I burned a Tostino's pizza. Like, how do you?
You can't burn boiled chicken, man. When you're cutting. Wait, how do you burn boiled chicken?
It's terrible. It's terrible. But
and I remember part of your story too. There was a story you shared with me. I think it's valuable for listeners. Is you were ready to hang up the gloves, and Jess was very instrumental in pushing you forward. Right I remember we had that conversation because you and I had become fairly close at that point when you hung up the gloves. But there was a time before when you were getting ready to hang them up, and then you've also had some thoughts about picking them back up. So talk about that. Talk about that journey when you've got to this end of this stage of life where you're moving on. Sometimes we think that's sooner than it is. Sometimes that time's passed. Talk a little bit about that, because I know that was a hard thing for you. That's got to be a really hard thing for a fighter in that space.
yeah, because like my goal with fighting was never to be world champion. It was always, I want to know who I am when that cage door shuts, which the first time it shut, and I was fighting at the National Western Stock Show Arena in a cage. That wasn't my first fight, but that was the first fight in a cage. There was like 3,000 people, 2,500 range there. I was like, seriously, did I just volunteer to fight another man? Like,
Did I do
that
that?
guy's big. Like, and he was. That was Cody Muma, that was at 185. After that fight, I went down to 170, and he moved up to heavyweights. So when you look at the picture, like he skipped 205 and he went all the way up to heavyweight.
How did that go? Because I grappled with that guy in my second jiu-jitsu tournament, and that guy locked up. He wrist grabbed me, collar, and he flattened me onto my face. I've never been just thrown into my face like that. I'm 200 pounds, solid muscle. The guy just face plants me in a tournament.
It was good. When you look at the pictures of us, you're like, one of these are not like the other, because he was much bigger than me. But it was a decision loss. He beat me. Third round, like I think I won first round or second round and vice versa. Going into the third round, either he took me down or I took a bad shot, and he was on top the rest of the fight. Yeah. And I was like, you were big.
It's a big guy.
Get off.
But great analogy, right? So like, what are you thinking under that pressure? Because one of the key things in jiu-jitsu, we talk about this a lot, is you are put into, in wrestling, MMA, you're put into a place constantly. Every minute you train, you're under this immense psychological, physical pressure where if you want it to stop,
Just gotta
just tap out. That's it. But your mind's saying tap, stop, quit. Culture's telling you, should have tapped 20 minutes ago. Just get the medal, get the prize, get the candy, get the iPhone, whatever it is.
Yep.
And what is that where you go, I can take another 3 seconds of this choke?
Well, I think some of that was from failing. Like my fifth or sixth professional fight. I had come out of the gates as a pro. I won 2 fights in one night. I flew over to Beirut, Lebanon, beat a guy from Dagestan, Russia, beat the Biter from the Ultimate Fighter show. That was a great fight. And another
Biter,
guy,
who was that?
James Chaney. It was from years ago. He was in a guillotine and bit the guy to try to get out of the choke.
And you're in Lebanon with our great friend, shout out.
Noah.
Yeah,
Noah set that up. I was training for a fight here, and it was supposed to happen. Fight falls out 10 days or about 2 weeks out. One of my coaches, Reed, was like, "Stay ready. I'm going to find you a fight." And he calls me. He's like, "Hey, Noah, found you a fight. How do you feel about Lebanon?" And I was like, "Kansas?" He's like, "No, the country." I was like, "Okay." So 10 days notice, we flew to Beirut, Lebanon, and fought a guy from Dagestan, Russia, who is still in the UFC and doing really well. I'm one of his. I think he just got his 3rd loss in his career, so I'm one of the 3 losses. But
how do you feel about that? Right, so you're like, hey, I wasn't going to be world champion. You've retired. You're building your family, building your business, and he's moved on. What does that do for you? Like, I beat this guy. Do you think, what if I kept fighting? Do you just appreciate and like revel in that moment now, or what goes through your head on that?
Every once in a while, I'm like, man, I would. He's still doing it. I could do it. But then I go, he hit me really hard. I don't want to get. The first time he hit me, I was like, nope, we are going to the mat, and I am choking you out because he's a great striker. He was the world wushu kickboxing champion before he did MMA. But yeah, every once in a while, it's like I see the guys I fought, I see my teammates, and I'm like, I could still do it. But then I'd go, I don't want to do the daily activities now to get to that condition, that shape, that preparation. If I could push the button and be in shape, I think I would go fight.
Okay.
But I don't want to do the 2-a-days diet, sleep, all that it has to be done to be a professional athlete.
Because that consumes your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, when I did it, my kids were young and they weren't in activities and it was fine. But right now, like every evening, tonight we got gymnastics and dance and flag football and all of that. And it's just every once in a while, and you ask this question, is I want to, because I would love my kids now that they're old enough to see me do that, to see me compete and strive and work towards that outside of business.
Maybe we'll do one. You and I have talked about doing one at Purple Belt. I was a purple when you were a purple. You're still a purple.
Yeah, but you got promoted.
And I got promoted. That's okay. But we were talking about doing one for charity. We could just do an open weight, fat guy, broken back, broken knee, jiu-jitsu. Just don't hurt my back. Don't hurt my knee.
We get a 2-minute halftime about halfway through
with some M&Ms,
yeah,
some coffee.
Yeah,
let's do it, and we'll raise some money for charity. Love it. We've talked. Oh, go ahead.
And you were asking about how do you get through that failure, and it's like, so my 6th fight, I was 5-0. I was at a big fight down in Denver, and the promoter goes, "Hey guys, the UFC scouts are here," and of course that's great right before you're gonna go on and fight, but the pressure got to me in that fight, and won the first round. Second round, I took a terrible shot, and he put on a guillotine. And I panic tapped, and I did. I tapped, and then I went, "Oh no!" Like I wasn't gonna be submitted right there. I could have fought through it, and I think that failure helped because I look at I had a fight later in my career where the guy was a black belt submission specialist. All of his wins were submission in the first round. And I was like, well, we're just not going to go to the ground. We'll stand up. 10 seconds into the fight, I kid you not, we're on the ground. I'm in a Darce choke to guillotine to Nagara, just back and forth.
Whatever he wanted to choke
Whatever
you
he
with.
wanted.
Yeah.
And the tunnel was shutting. And I said, well, I'm going to keep fighting or I'm going unconscious. And finally, and it was tight, but I was, because of that past failure, I was like, I'm not quitting. He will beat me or I will get out. And got out and knocked him out.
You knocked him out.
And won. And it was,
Love it.
I think that past failure drove me to knowing that I didn't want to quit again.
What I heard you say about that failure was that in that choke, he didn't have it, but the fear overrode the logical reality of he doesn't have it.
Right.
Do you see that happen a lot in business? I feel like I see that happen a lot with people, the fear, the voice, the past story. It just overrides the logic on paper. This makes no sense. Your fear is bigger than the reality at hand, and you just gave up.
Absolutely. I mean, even just like a simple thing of, gosh, I got to make that phone call today. I got to make that phone call again. I didn't do it yesterday. I got to do it today. I got to make that phone call. Oh man, now they're going to be upset that I didn't make it, or, and you make it, and they haven't been thinking about you that whole time. It was all a false reality that you built in your head that the phone was too heavy and didn't want to make that call or whatever the case is, or I'm bugging them, or what am I going to say, or all of those things. And you just need to take that 10 seconds and just pick up the phone or do that activity. But I think we tell ourselves this story that it's going to be worse than it is, and then we don't do it.
Yeah. I love it.
We delay.
So these shot glasses here, you don't drink.
I don't.
And I love that. I love that about you. We're getting ready. You and I are getting ready to hike the Camino. You're coming on the
So pumped.
hike of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'll tell everybody that's watching this, you've believed in me and everything that I've done, like before it was actually there, right? You've seen that vision. Love you for that. I mean, when this was just an idea, because we were doing Ultimate Immersion, I go, hey, why don't we do a kickoff with the Camino? Like, let's do it. Sign me up.
Yeah.
I go, Kris, I don't know when it is. Sign me up.
Let's
I don't
go.
care. Let's do it. So we're getting ready to do that, right?
Yep.
And we talk about the alcohol culture and everything in Spain. Like, people stop, have coffee, have a drink. You don't drink.
Yep.
And I'd love to hear that story if you'd like to share. There's a reason you don't. And you always share the story of where you ended up falling asleep one time. And
Yep.
do you want to share that?
Yeah. I mean, and again, kind of culture, like high school, junior high, high school culture was drinking, and which is terrifying now that I'm a dad. But I started drinking at 15, and
Riley's age.
and yeah, and socially during that time, and but in high school, like we would throw parties and we would drink, and 18 beers I couldn't drive home, but 17 I could.
That was your number. 17.
That was my number. It was like, if I got to 18, I'm not driving. And when I went to the academy and when I came back, life was tough, and I was, I had a period where I was sleeping on a couch at a friend's house, and I started drinking a lot, and I couldn't control it. If I had one, I would drink the whole Bud Light 20 pack, that night. And it got to where that was the norm. And right after I proposed to Jessica, came back and I went to a guy's night. It's supposed to be a guy's night. And I was going to have 1 or 2 beers. But I don't have that control. Like, this being right here.
No off switch.
There's no off switch. Like, I want to eat this. But like that night I started drinking, and finally, it was 1 a.m. and I'm laying in the middle of the road, Prospect Road in Fort Collins. Cars are swerving around me, trying to miss me. And finally, my roommate Jesse, that had introduced me to Jessica, found me and pulled me out of the road. And that next day, I was like, man, I could have royally screwed everything up. I could have, I just got engaged. I could have done something to mess that up. I should have, they should have ran me over, like middle of the night, and that was, you mentioned the sleeping in the car. Like a couple months before that, I had gone to a bar in Old Town. I'm not 21. I get into a bar in Old Town because I'm with two younger girls, or two good-looking girls that the bouncers were like, "Hey, we'll let you guys in," and none of us are 21. Me and the other two, and guys at the bar start buying me drinks because they're trying to meet the girls I'm with, which we're just friends. We're just there. Well, I drank so much that night that I passed out under a car in Old Town. And luckily, that driver didn't come back and move the car because they would have ran over me. But middle of the night, I roll out, finally figure out where I am. I'm filthy. My jeans are filthy. My sweatshirt's torn. And I was sleeping on the couch, and I call the guy's house I was staying at. I said, "Brian, can you come pick me up?" And I'm standing in College in Mulberry, and a police officer comes up, and I'm like, "Oh no!" Like, I'm not 21. I'm drunk. I'm in Old Town. It's not gonna be good. And he goes, "Do you need a ride to the homeless shelter?" He totally thought I was homeless, but I was like, "No, I'm good. Just waiting for a friend to pick me up." And that was the start. And then it ended with that night that I was in the middle of the road. I was like, I have to stop. And I quit that next day and haven't drank since.
Never back.
So I've never had a legal drink of alcohol. And there's been times that I've wanted to, and there's been time, like the first part was hard. I couldn't even go into like Chili's. I would smell the alcohol, and I had to distance myself a little bit from that friend group. But now, it's, now I go, I got more discipline in my life. Maybe I could do it again, but then I go and I eat a 4-pound tub of Jelly Bellies. I'm like, no.
That's solid. That's black belt right there.
That's
black belt eating.
Moved it from alcohol to food, and it's probably not any, I mean, it's better, but it's still, it's still a vice, you know? Yeah. And knowing that I have that, like, I shouldn't open that door again ever, Yeah. But I mean, that was almost 18 years ago since I've drank.
So with that wake up call, that's a strong wake up call, right? Drinking, laying in Prospect Road, maybe about to get run over. Where does your faith story play into that? Because you're a Jesus follower, so am I. I found Jesus in the back of a police car. Or he showed up in a very interesting way when I was about that drunk, about that dead. Same story.
Yep.
And I just get scooped up out of a field, thrown in a police car. So where was that the catalyst to your faith? Did you have that before? How does that play in to tie up the show here?
Yeah. I mean, like I grew up going to Catholic church. I even went to Catholic school, 3rd and 4th grade. And I'd always attended, but never had a relationship. And it did start, that seeking of the relationship started for me when I went to the Air Force Academy and kind of through that crucible of boot camp. And I know, the academy boot camps are not as difficult as the other boot camps, but it was still, as a 18-year-old, like, whoa, what did I just sign up for? But it started that, like, searching for something more then. And when I left the academy, I actually went to a business conference in Texas. And at the end of the business conference on Sunday, they did a non-denominational Christian church service, and this business guy, multi-millionaire, super successful, private jets, like all the things that the world
boxes
says is amazing, says none of that matters. Where are you going when you die? Let me tell you about Jesus. And then at the end of it, he did an altar call, but the first conference, I could feel, don't get up. It's not real, not yet. But it was, and I didn't. And in the next conference that I went to, there was that guy again, and again, all the boxes, none of it matters except for Jesus. And that day is when I gave my life to Christ. And through that time was the drinking story. I was drinking. I heard him here. I was drinking, gave my life, still drinking, but now I'm working on, I'm developing that relationship with Jesus, and more things in my life go, hey, maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe this is it. Maybe change this, And then I had that event.
The wake-up call.
The wake-up call. And it was like, but it was a business conference that I really got my relationship with Jesus.
Love it.
Which is wild.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Love it. And I think some people feel like, at least I feel like, you have to have this wake-up call, and then it's all good and great and amazing. From there, your story is you had a wake-up call in your faith through an unusual circumstance. You keep seeing this guy. He just keeps showing up.
Yep.
And then even after that, you're still carrying things.
Mm-hmm.
You had to have a different wake-up call relating to a different topic, laying in the middle of a Prospect's a very busy road. Nobody knows Fort Collins. So is Mulberry. Right? All that area.
Yeah.
A lot of cars.
Shouldn't
be laying in any street, especially Prospect.
Right.
So as we're wrapping up, we opened up the podcast. You and I have been journeying for 15 years. Yeah. Our journey is going to obviously continue. You can't get away from me. Like you can see in my window. I'm going to shut my blind. It's weird. And we're about to
plant some trees.
I'm planting a bunch. We're jumping on the Camino.
Yep.
We're taking this journey. Yeah, everybody watching this is a journey, and we're gonna end the show today with you came into our building here. Everybody that comes on the podcast picks a card with their favorite color off of our wall. It's this big color swatch wall.
Yep.
And grab your card, because I want you to close out. I'm going to close this out with, you have your journey, you have your story, you've done what you're supposed to do here, and you get to leave one statement, one sentence, and it's on that card. Read that to everybody.
There's two things you can control: your actions and your attitude. You choose those each day. And we talked about it, and I tell my kids that all the time, like, you control those. That's all you can control. Everything else stems from those two: your actions and your attitudes. You choose today.
Love it. That's a wrap.
Love it. Thank you, sir.
Are you ready to make massive breakthroughs in your leadership, and do you want to do so in a really unique way? You should consider coming to Spain with me. April 27th to May 4th of 2024, I am hosting the Ultimate Immersion Experience in Spain. I'm taking a very small group of business owners and business leaders over to Spain for the fun, sun, food, culture, and cuisine of the country. But more importantly, we are going to be putting together some very intentionally crafted adventures, challenges, and experiences to massively push you out of your comfort zone and learn about your own leadership in a very unique way. Go to mattshoup.com, click on the Travel to Spain with Matt button, and check out the Ultimate Immersion Experience.